Curious. You would make an excellent cephalon, Tenno.
Welcome to Cephalon Squared, a Warframe community and podcast. Join the community at Cephalon Squared on Twitter and Facebook, or send us a voice message via the Anchor app. Now, sit back and enjoy the show. Here are your Cephalons, Greg and Lucas.
G'day and welcome to episode 6 of Cephalon Squared. I am your host, Cephalon Greg, and I am joined as always by my fabulous co-host, Cephalon Lucas. How you doing, Lucas?
I'm good. How are you?
I am pretty much the same as always. Not much changes. So, as always, it's an interesting week. We have a little bit of news to go over. We have a discussion about Conclave and Lunaro this week. We have our second community guest star, Josiah. We've got our beginning and advanced tips and our community call out. So there's a lot to go into. So let's kick off, shall we?
We shall.
All right. So the news. Interestingly, during the week, Xena, the warrior princess herself, well, Lucy Lawless, of course, reached out to Digital Extremes via Twitter. She didn't even reach out to them, really. All she said was, oh, geez, I'm in the area. I wish I went to Digital Extremes. And half an hour later, she was at Digital Extremes. And everyone was going nuts, and they took a whole bunch of photos. So it's interesting that Lucy Lawless seems to play Warframe. It may have just been that one of the people she was traveling with plays it more than her. I'm not sure. But, yeah, it was something that she specifically called out online. So it was just interesting to see that, you know, when a celebrity plays the game that you love. What did you think, Lucas?
I was thrilled at this. I mean, I grew up watching Xena, the Warrior Princess. It was one of my favorite shows. I'm very curious as to what Lucy Lawless's favorite Warframe is.
Yes, we'll have to get her on as a guest.
Yeah, hopefully at some point.
Well, she is, you know, a Kiwi, so she's part of the ANZ Alliance. No, it was really good to see her, and I loved that show back in the day as well, so it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty special. Moving on, Reb Ford did post during the week on Twitter that one of the issues she's had over the years is in regards to drop rates for Oxium. And that It was something that they're talking about. So it looks like things are going to change there, Lucas.
Oh, definitely. She did mention that she had spent a solid week farming and came to the realization that because you can only realistically get Oxium from a single enemy, and with how much you need to craft a lot of the equipment, that they may actually up the drop rate just to help things out and make it less of a hassle. Yeah. Less of a chore, less of a hassle.
Because old Vauban Prime, he needs like 7,000, doesn't he? Oxium for one of his pieces. Yeah. He was a nightmare to build. I've built him, thank crikey, but I don't want to have to go back and build him again. Shakes fist at the air. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah. What was that?
I'm going to wait for the Oxium upgrade before I start thinking about farming him.
Oh, you still haven't built him yet. Oh, nope. He's pretty glorious. I like him. I don't care what anyone says. I like him. Okay, moving on to the next thing. It's if you're a fan of Warframe, then you know already that the login reward changes that were discussed at the dev stream last week have created a bit of a rift among the long-term players. There are a lot of very vocal people. A gay guy plays in particular is very, very upset. Whereas a lot of the others, the other major content creators such as iFlynn, Tactical Potato, Shy, people like that, they're a little less concerned about the changes. But yeah, so during the week, the dev workshop was released, which did go into the fact that the items wouldn't be tradable So, it did fix one of the issues that we found to be a major problem when we were discussing it last week. But Rob from A Gay Guy Plays still didn't think that this was enough to make things okay for himself. Now, I don't think we're really the right people that can comment on this, Lucas, because neither of us are really long-term legacy players.
No,
But
no.
did you have anything you wanted to say about it?
There's not, as you said, there's not really much that we could actually say. I mean, I've only just hit the 450-day mark. I think you're somewhere around the 300-day mark.
Yeah, 330 odd.
330. So realistically, we're not the right people to say anything about this. But I think because of the position we're in, we can kind of see both sides of the fence. Because we have actually played a decent amount, we can see what it was like for those early rewards and just thinking, oh, if only I had them now. But then at the same time, we're kind of looking at the later point thinking this is a fair system.
I mean, in reality, I think the system as it exists is not a good system anyway. I don't think you should have weapons that are locked behind a login wall. I don't think there should be top tier weapons that take 500 days for people to be able to get. Yes, I think there should be something special, like the sigils. I think were a great idea. Things like that. I think that's fine to lock behind a login wall. But weapons,
but are they really top tier though? I mean,
they're good weapons. I mean, many people think the Zenistar is one of the best melee weapons in the game.
Yeah, but realistically, it all comes back down to personal preference. I personally,
that's why I don't think it really matters.
No, I was excited for the Zenistar. I got it. I used it until level 30, and then thought, this isn't the weapon for me.
It's a bit of a pain in the ass to use, personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's making a mountain out of a molehill, because in reality, even though you can choose whatever weapon you want at 200 days, you can't choose another one until you get to 400 days. So it's not like at 200 days you get all the cool weapons. Yay! You still have to wait 600 days or whatever to get all those weapons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think they're making a mountain out of a molehill, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because realistically, that's still exactly how it is now. You still have to wait 600 days. You get the Sigma and Octantis at, was it 600 or 650?
I think it's 600. I don't know. At the moment, it's a little bit. Some of it's a little bit out of whack. Which is why I like the fact that they're going to make it every 200 days you get a weapon, and every 100 days you get the mods. Every 50 it's a sigil pack or whatever. And I can understand that there are certain weapons and certain sigils that people took 1,000 days to log in for just to get. And after they got that, they would equip it just so people would know that, hey, they've logged in 1,000 times. But realistically, I don't know. What does that mean? Just to show people that you've logged in 1,000 times. It's again, I don't have the experience in the game. I haven't been around for a long time. I wasn't one of those people that founded the game or put money into it in the early days. So it's hard for me to comment. But as a new player, and I guess that's why, a lot of those guys are saying new players shouldn't really comment. And maybe we shouldn't, but I don't know. I just don't think it doesn't feel to me like as big a deal as it's being made out to be.
No. Yeah. And you can't just look at something like this and say, new players shouldn't comment, because it's a community thing. Like, no matter new or old, everyone has a voice. Everyone has an opinion. And yeah, it's a fairness thing. Everyone should have the right to say how they want the game to be improved.
Yeah, and I think the other bigger problem that some of these guys aren't thinking about is, yes, it can take 1,000 days to log in and get, whatever the 1,000-day login is now. I think it's going to be the new armor set. But 1,000 days is more than 3 years. So anyone who's starting right now, they're not going to even be able to think about getting that for 3 years. Is Warframe still going to be around in 3 years? I'd like to think that yes, it will be. I hope it will. But I think it's the system as it stands. it's not flexible. It's very inflexible, and certain items should be achievable by everyone. Other items, cosmetics and things like that, it's not a massive deal. But yeah, I think it's a difficult issue personally,
Yes.
because they put this in place specifically to make those early guys feel like they were logging in every day for a reason, and now they're saying, well, we've got to be fair to everyone. So, but I can understand both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should probably stop there. We probably said more than we intended to initially.
Yes, definitely.
But the reality is that's how we feel. That's where we stand. I hope it gets resolved amicably and everyone's happy with the way it goes. But in the end, you can't make everyone happy. It's just impossible in this day and age. Moving on. During the week, also on Twitter. So if you see a theme, follow Twitter. They share a lot of stuff there. Also on Twitter, Steve Sinclair shared a new gear wheel prototype. So if you know the gear wheel at the moment, it's split into something like 20 different slices. But they keep adding gear and bits and pieces, and now we're going to have the lure, and we're going to have the dart gun, and all sorts of different things that is going to come with Fortuna. So rather than having something that's limited to 20 slots, they've created a bit of a spiral, so you can keep spinning through it. It was quite mesmerizing. What did you think of how it looked?
I hope they decide to go with the spiral. It's very mesmerizing, and I think I can't really see any real negatives towards it, towards having a spiral system. You just kind of just spiral deeper into the gear wheel, and it's. I think it's a good system.
I just hope that with the spiral, it's not an endless spiral, or it's not, one end is one end and the other end is the other end. I hope that they make it sort of loop. So once you've scrolled through the spiral, it starts again at the other end. So you don't have to keep going back and forth, because that could become a bit of a headache. But it's just a prototype. We'll see how it goes. But it looked interesting.
Yeah.
The next big thing. Sorry, go on.
I was actually just thinking then, like, maybe there is a bit of a downfall to it. How long does it actually take for you to find the item you're looking for? That's
my concern.
The only thing. Yeah, the only thing I can really think of is how long will it take you to find the item that you need for that situation. Other than that, it looks good.
Yeah, I have the same opinion, but we'll see. I'm sure they've got the same idea. Next, and the big thing that happened during the week, everyone has been waiting for it. We mentioned it last week. We were expecting the Revenant to drop for PC this week, and it did. Very late in the week, it dropped, I think, Saturday Australian time. But it has been released, and people have gone out there, and the quest is relatively short, relatively easy, but does give some good information about where Revenant came from and a little bit of information about the planes. So Revenant is out, his shotgun is out, he has a pack where you can buy some armor, that's called the Vitala armor, and Akasha Kavat armor as well for your Kavat. I don't know why I called it a Kavat, but I did. That's how it came out. There's also the alternate helmet, which is called the Varnia, and that's the one with the wispy comb over. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be purchased. What do you think about the Revenant?
He looks even better than I thought he was going to. We did get one fact wrong with last week, saying that it had looked like the energy pillars were removed. They are still there. That just makes his first ability even more powerful. So this is great.
Yeah. With it being dropped down from 20 thralls down to 4, which I thought might have been a little bit too few. Now that they're leaving the energy pillars behind, it's acceptable.
It's a nice
stamp
balance.
of approval. It is. It is. So I'm really looking forward to him. We did have one of our Discord members, Whooshy, mention that it looks like Revenant's misty, smoky thing. The animation for it is a little bit lacking. She mentioned it looked a bit like a 2D.
2D GIF, yeah.
Yeah, so
Which
I don't know.
I saw a lot of gameplay for it, and I have to agree. I'm not too impressed with the Wall of Mists animation. I gotta ask why they went for a mist and not more of a spectral feel. I mean, being an on frame, you would kind of expect maybe more of an energy, like a spectral energy form, not so much a mist.
Yeah, I didn't watch enough videos, so I can't comment myself. But hopefully it'll be improved if it is a little bit underwhelming.
Fingers crossed.
Apart from that, along with that update, they also released a new Grenier themed UI. It's green. It's kind of a dark green. It looks pretty good. I actually quite like it. It looks like it's also got Grenier text as well that comes with it. I'm thinking about purchasing it at some point. We'll see. And of course, bug fixes and some updates to Frame Fighter and things like that. So it was a good update, and hopefully we'll see that coming in the next couple of weeks to the console. Anything else to say about the news, Lucas?
Nope, I think that's all covered.
Sweet. All right, let's move on. We are going to discuss the Conclave and Lunaro today. So we've been playing a lot of Warframe, of course, as per all of you listening, I would imagine. And let me tell a quick story. When I started playing Warframe, it was about 4 years ago when it first released on the PS4. PS4 first came out, I downloaded it, I played it, I didn't like it. A couple of years later, I downloaded it again, gave it another shot, enjoyed it a little bit more, was playing with a friend, and we decided to go into the Conclave, and we only matched up against one guy. And we were all running around in circles, not understanding what the hell was going on, shooting each other. We were Destiny players at the time, and we just didn't enjoy it, and we went back to Destiny. For the next 2 years, I was one of those people that said Conclave is a piece of shit. It is terrible. I hate it. I never want to play it again. I can't believe people play Conclave. Rah, 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 rah. I was one of those people. More recently, though, I was talking to Lucas and thinking, why isn't the Conclave popular? What's so bad about it? It can't be as bad as I thought it was. And I'd like to go back in and try. I think part of the reason that people think it's bad is because nobody plays it. So every time they've gone in to have a try at it, they're only playing against one other person, and one person destroys the other, and it feels like the mechanics are bad or whatever. And I think I thought that it was the nature of itself, or the nature of the community disliking Conclave that led to the community disliking Conclave, kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, a bit like a domino effect.
Yeah, so I went onto Reddit during the week, last week or the week before, and I posted something on Reddit just saying basically that. And admittedly, I misrepresented myself. So I got on there and I tried to pretend like I knew what I was talking about with the Conclave. But the reality is I'd hardly ever played it. I played it once with Lucas, and we really enjoyed ourselves because we played 1v1 and we had a lot of fun. We were having a good laugh. I won a round, Lucas won a round. And it was fun. It was frustrating at times, but we enjoyed ourselves. So from that, I thought, you know what, Conclave's not that bad. I'm going to go tell Reddit. Bit of a mistake. So what I mentioned was, I think because the older players hate it so much because they played it probably years ago, decided they didn't like it and never play it, they don't play it and they hate it. Newer players come in, they try to play it, they can't find any matchmaking. They think it's a bad experience. They start to hate it. And it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy I was talking about. And I thought maybe if we actually start to try and get people back in there, people might start to enjoy it. So I was thinking, okay, let's get some clan stuff going. Let's try and reinvigorate the community. Apparently I was very wrong. Reddit told me in no uncertain terms that I was extremely wrong. There were a few people on there that agreed, though, and I didn't let it get me down because people are all going to have their opinions. Some people like it, some people don't like it. There was one person in particular on Reddit Reddit that basically explained exactly what it was that they didn't like about Conclave. And I liked some of the things that person said, and mainly what it came down to was the skill gradient. So when you first start out, everyone's a bit crap, it's a bit difficult, but as people improve at the game, it gets to a point where you just overtake everyone, you eclipse everyone. Once you know how to control your character and you know how to aim while you're moving, no one else can get you. So that it becomes a major gap in the ability of players. Some players are terrible, some players are okay, but only the people that are really good are going to win, regardless. Even those okay people just can't compete. And they went into a lot of detail about it, and they were talking about hitboxes and certain mods that you can use in the game that basically means you never have to reload your weapons and things like that sort of affect the way that Conclave works. But I really appreciated that feedback. But we took it into a clan Conclave match where there were 5 or 6 of us playing, and we had a grand old time. So using that as a lead-in, Lucas, what were your thoughts after we had our 1v1 and our clan 6v6 or 6-player annihilation?
Yeah. Well, okay. So going on the 1v1 first, had an absolutely great time, especially with you constantly falling for Loki's decoy. That was great.
I had less of a good time.
I could not control myself from laughing. It was hysterical.
No, I noticed. I was there. Didn't appreciate it.
But the more recent one where we did the clan group that we did, it was an experience. It was I did enjoy it. I can definitely see where some people are going with the skill level gap, because there was after a while there was a bit of a rift forming between some of the characters, some of the players, and the scores.
Yeah.
And the weapon choices were very interesting for the group we had.
Yeah, I think the problem I found with Conclave is, one, yes, the aiming and the movement was hard, but there was just a massive difference between weapons. Like
Yes.
the balance when it came to weapons was way off, because certain weapons are good and some weapons there's just no point in even taking them in. In fact, I'd probably say something like 90% of the weapons in Warframe, there's no point in even taking them into Conclave, and they don't even act the same way as they do in PvE. Like I didn't even enjoy the Marodetron in Conclave. I didn't enjoy the Piranha Prime in Conclave.
Oh no. Those two were prime examples of what not to take into Conclave. I couldn't find any primary weapons that I enjoyed either. I ended up running the Euphona Prime dual wielding with the Orvius, and I found that to be a good synergistic combo to go along with. Power throw the Orvius, and it hovers above someone's head. They take a little bit of damage, but it slows them down.
It slows them down significantly. That was frustrating.
And then you come running through and buckshot them with the Euphona Prime.
Yeah, that was a good combo.
Yeah, but there was another guy using the Soma Prime.
Soma. Yeah,
and he was just mowing everyone down.
Yeah, the Soma. I tried the Soma Prime. I enjoyed it. I found that the Bazza was actually better. Just had a more consistent stream and a little bit better accuracy. But I think those automatic weapons were just a hell of a lot better than everything else. The Toblerone Prime or the Tiburon Prime just didn't cut it. So it was. I think the most frustrating part really is the weapons. And the abilities. So, certain Warframes, their abilities didn't matter that much. Rhino's Iron Skin gave you a little bit of an edge, but not much. What else was there?
I
Loki,
know you
not
tried
Loki.
Zephyr. I
Yeah, I
know you
tried
tried
Zephyr.
Zephyr.
Zephyr was really good just to be able to get out of places and to get across the map quickly. So I actually
Yes.
really enjoyed Zephyr in Conclave. She was probably the most fun I had in Conclave, although her abilities didn't give me any edge. It just allowed me to get away faster or to get into position faster.
Just an escape plan.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed her. But one of the guys was using Volt, and his shield was super effective.
Oh
Um,
yes.
Go figure. Makes perfect sense to have a shield that blocks all incoming bullets. Makes perfect sense. And he did really well. He destroyed us all.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was one of our guys who is a heavy PvP player. He plays a lot of Battlefield and things like that, and he was just destroying us all regardless. And that's one of those things where it's a skill level thing. You saw him outplaying the rest of us by sometimes
Was
double.
that was that Semi?
That was Semi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know at one point he decided to swap over to Frost, and try and slow us down a little bit with his Frost's first ability, and that kind of worked when it hit.
Yeah, it did. It did work at times, but he did say it was he struggled to get it to hit. So I think out of all that, it's a bit of hit and miss. Like it's not the greatest PvP that there is, and I don't think anyone thinks that it is. But I also, it's nowhere near as bad as everyone was making it out to be. So a lot of the responses that I got on Reddit were basically just saying, it's shit, you're wrong. I can't believe how wrong you are. You're the wrongest person ever to come out of Wrong Town. And no, it's not quite that bad. You know, it makes me think that there's probably a lot of people out there that were like me. They played it once years ago and didn't have a good experience, and now they've built it up over time to believe that it's shit, and they haven't tried it again, or they've never
Yeah.
tried it with a group of people.
Yeah.
Or maybe people just have different opinions. That could also be a thing that exists that's real in the world. Um, I still think it's a little bit sad that it's not more popular. It should never, I mean, based on the way that it is now, it should never be really popular. I'll give it that. But it would just be nice to be able to go in there sometimes and just have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Especially if you look at the rewards when you go to the Conclave vendor on any relay, there are some really nice looking sigils, and
Mm.
if that frame is the true end game as people claim, then they need to be doing Conclave to get these sigils because they are gorgeous.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And there's supposed to be a Sayandana that's pretty cool as well.
Yes.
It's if it was good, it'd be a good way of being able to farm for Excalibur and Vault, and I think Mag's one of them as well. I think
Yep.
all of the starter frames are available through Conclave, but it's just not. It's impossible to grind for anything, and it's a bit sad. So, what are your thoughts about how DE could specifically improve Conclave?
Well, okay, so I'm not going to take a weapon approach to this. I'm going to take a hitbox approach.
Mhm.
Now, one of the thoughts I had was that if you remove the current system like entirely, take away just the basic kill and point gathering from kills, and give each player 3 sentient targets that kind of are sentinel targets, just kind of float around the shoulders and their head. And turn it into like a point system. So if you're a good enough shot to kill one of the sentient sentinels that are floating around a player, you get 1 point. If you're good enough shot to kill the actual player, 3 points. And you have like a tally of how many points you can acquire in the time frame instead of just a straight up deathmatch.
Yeah, make it a little bit different. I mean, you did mention that while we were talking last week, and I still haven't come to a point where I think that would work myself. But that's probably just because I've played too many other shooting games and I've got this ingrained notion about what a shooting game should be. So it could really work for all I know, but it just sounds so different to me that I'm almost resistant of it. But that could work. I think that something really needs to be done to shake it up. I was thinking, okay, well, maybe the only way to do it is to restrict frames and restrict weapons so everyone just has access to the same kind of weapons or the same kind of abilities or the same kind of frames. But that takes away from what Warframe is. The whole point of Warframe is to have this power fantasy of being this character and using all these different weapons. So I think really the issue is there's got to be a whole bunch of balance that has to be made. And the only way that's going to happen is that if they hire someone that's specifically worked on and knows how to do PvP, I'm not sure it's going to be fixed anytime soon without some different hires being put into the game or some different focus being put onto Conclave. Maybe an idea like yours would work in the interim. So that's not a bad suggestion. There was, some people on the Reddit suggested, well, let's not focus as much on PvP, shooting PvP. Let's put some other modes into Conclave, like some, what if the obstacle course was a Conclave mode, where you start off on an easy obstacle course and then you work through on more successively difficult obstacle courses. And, if you're able to pass them within a certain time limit, then you get Conclave standing. Or, why can't Frame Fighter, considering it's a PvP mode, why can't that be put into the Conclave? And, why can't you get some standing out of that? So I think there's a whole bunch of valid opinions, but the reality is, in the end, for the most part, the community's right in that Conclave needs a lot of work and it needs love directly from DE to make it better.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so my dream of being able to just reinvigorate the community and get people back into Conclave, it ain't going to happen. I've come to realize that now. All right, let's talk about Lunaro. So Lunaro, we only played more recently. So we played that a couple of nights ago, not last night, but the night before. 24 robbers came knocking at my door. My child again. And if you don't know what Lunaro is, it is a Conclave mode, but it's essentially a sport. So it's kind of like I can't remember the name of the sport. Well, it's not like Rocket League because that's car soccer. There's an actual sport, lacrosse. It's very similar to lacrosse. So you have like a hooky arm, and you can catch a ball in your hooky arm, and you can fling the ball across a sports stadium, and you've got a little goal that you've got to throw the ball through. There's some provisos. You can't bullet jump while you're holding the ball. You can't bullet jump to catch the ball. You can tackle other players. You can do all sorts of different things.
You can only hold the ball for 3 seconds, and
can
after
only hold
that
the ball
it
for 3
explodes.
seconds. Then it explodes and knocks you over. If you smash the ball too many times, it will power it up and do the same thing. So it's an interesting little mode, and it is similar to Rocket League in that it's a sports mode within a game. It is pretty fast paced. It does require a lot of skill. And it is actually really fun. In fact, out of Conclave and Lunaro, I enjoyed Lunaro a lot more. What about yourself?
Yes. I'm in the same boat. I enjoyed Lunaro a lot more as well. I think we ended up playing for a good solid 3 to 4 hours just on Lunaro, nothing else.
Yeah, something like that. We there was only 4 of us. I would have liked to have seen, because I was 2v2. I would have liked to have seen if we could have filled out 2 teams and had 3v3, because I think that would have been a different experience again.
Oh, yes.
With 2v2, you can either have 2 players roaming the entire field, or you can have one hang back while the other one roams the field. But with 3 players, I think you could have a goalie and 2 people roaming the field, and that would really change things up, and it probably would even make it more fun and more difficult to get goals.
I know with you and me, we did you run forward to try and get the goal, and I would sit back, defend, take the long shots, and occasionally get the long goal.
Which you did. You were very good at that. My accuracy at getting goals wasn't as good, but that really worked for us. I don't think we lost any games when we played in that method.
No.
So
The
yeah,
closest we lost was a draw.
yeah, that's true. But there was a draw. So I did really enjoy it. I didn't like. So the goal is kind of like a hoop. It's kind of like what's that game they play in Harry Potter?
Quidditch.
Quidditch. It's kind of like Quidditch, where you've got to throw
Yeah.
the ball through this hoop. And most of the time, when the hoop is facing you, it's easy to do. You throw it straight through the bloody hoop. But sometimes it's perpendicular to the wall, so you can only throw the ball in from the side, and that was really frustrating. And I don't think anyone from DE listens to this podcast now, but if they do, change
needs to
that,
go.
please. It really does. It ruins the experience of Lunaro. It makes it far too difficult. And there's just not enough maps. It would be okay if there were only one or two of those maps with the sideways goals, and you always had the ability to choose a map that had the goals you liked. It would be okay, but sometimes you just don't get a choice. And that was really frustrating. I'd prefer that they were removed entirely. Thanks, D.
They had, I think they had 4 maps in total. I think there was the normal Orokin map. Then there's the Perrin Sequence, Steel Meridian, and Arbiters of Hexus, I believe.
Yeah. And they were themed in name only, really. Although I remember on the Arbiters of Hexus map there was a couple of Arbiters of Hexus dudes sitting on the side, but not exactly a crowd. It's a strange mode because it looks like they put a lot of effort into it, but then just didn't flesh it out.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What's good and bad about it? How can they improve it?
Okay, so my thoughts are it's a great mode. I think more people should definitely give it a shot. It's a lot of fun to be had.
Agreed.
Especially if you do play Rocket League, then you will enjoy this. One of the things I didn't like was the mobility, and going back as what you said on the bullet jumping. You can't bullet jump to catch the ball. You can't bullet jump while holding the ball. So while it is a fast-paced game, it's not as... there were a lot of times where it felt like you just were taking too long to traverse the terrain.
Before you go on, let me just jump in there for a second. Excuse me. My opinion is, I think it's because they've obviously tried to slow things down. If you could bullet jump across the whole field, people would be able to beat everyone. Certain people would be more skilled, and they'd be able to just destroy their competition all the time. So I understand why they've removed that, but at least you should be able to catch the ball with a bullet jump.
Yeah.
That's my thought. If you could do that, because that would really make for some spectacular plays.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But anyway, go on.
Especially if you were to chain it into an aim glide and then get a goal off that, that would be spectacular.
Exactly. To do a bullet jump through the air, catch the ball, aim glide, throw it, get a goal, that'd be amazing.
Oh yes, definitely. Photo finishes, that's the kind of stuff you need.
Yeah. And they do little replays when you get it, and we all had a good laugh with our replays.
Yeah. Casual over the shoulder, not even looking at goal.
Yeah. Yes. There was a lot of that.
Yeah. But one of the thoughts I had because of this whole mobility thing was, they could potentially stretch the arena out, make it a bit bigger, give it proper walls that you could actually physically touch, and basically do Lunaro on the K drives, the hoverboards that they're releasing for Venus's open world map. I think that could add a whole new dimension to the Lunaro experience and have a lot more people come back to try Lunaro, which could potentially lead to a league of some sort. I think Lunaro deserves a league.
I think you're thinking a little bit too far ahead, but Lunaro on K drives is the best idea ever in the history of the world. So I think people need to start rattling the drums and posting things on Reddit and posting things on the official forums. Let's get Lunaro on K drives, because it would eliminate that issue with bullet jumps. You can't bullet jump on a K drive. So if you're riding around on a K drive, you can do all these special little moves. You can do these maneuvers. You can jump off the K drive to grab a ball, and then you land back on your K drive. I think that would eliminate a lot of the movement issues. It would eliminate the issue with bullet jumps being a pain in the ass. And it would really speed things up, make it more fun. And if, like you said, if there were physical walls that you could touch, and if you could go sideways on those walls on your K drive and ride them like, let's face it, stealing from Rocket League, that would just be the most fun, enjoyable experience there is. So I am so glad you had that idea. It's the best.
Happy to help.
Yeah, but like you said, before we move on, and we do need to move on because we're already going way over time, Lunaro is fun. If you enjoy competitive stuff, you've got a bunch of people in your clan and you think you can throw together some Lunaro games, give it a shot. It really is quite fun. I don't know why nobody plays it. Maybe it's because the rest of Conclave is not as good. Lunaro really is a good, fun experience. A little frustrating at times, but it is quite good. All right, so that is it for our Conclave and Lunaro discussion. Please let us know how you feel about some of the things we've thought. You know all the ways to get in contact with us by now, and you will hear them again at the end of the episode, as always. But let's move on, because this week we have our second community guest star. This is Josiah, who reached out to us from the Cephalon Squared Facebook page and asked to be our community guest star. He is our first US resident to be on the show, and he is a lovely guy. So let's kick on over to that particular interview, and we'll be back soon. Okay, welcome to our second community guest star. Today we have Josiah from the middle of the United States. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. You reached out to us via the Cephalon Squared Facebook page and asked to be our community guest star, and we are honoured to have you aboard. Thanks for joining.
Welcome to the show.
That's great to be here. I have to say, I'm really excited just to talk with you guys and get some of your perspectives on a few things too.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Happy to always give our perspectives.
That's what we like. So, give us a little bit of a rundown on yourself. What platform do you play on? How long you've been playing? All that kind of jazz.
Well, I play on PC, and I have played for a couple of years on and off, really. Which Warframe is one of those cool games where you can kind of leave for a while, you come back, and there's so much fresh stuff that it's almost like a new game, but it's familiar enough that you can still jump right back in. So it's kind of like a unique game in that. So I've played on and off for almost 4 years, I guess, and I'm Mastery Rank 14. So a little bit underwhelming when I tell you how long I've been playing, but for a lot of it, I didn't understand the affinity and the mastery ranking stuff. Yes. And so like for a lot of my beginning time, I was just kind of like having fun, and I never was like leveling up weapons past 30 or up to 30, and Forma and stuff like that. I just wasn't doing anything. And so I have a lot of hours, and I've got over 750 hours of my life in this game. No regrets. Some of those were very, very long, endless runs, I have to say. But I've been playing on it. I guess, like I said, PC. I was re-sparked in interest because recently they mentioned it was going to be on Nintendo Switch, and I happened to have bought a Switch recently because I was looking forward to like the new Smash Brothers and Mario Party stuff like that. And so I'm like, ooh, that sounds really fun. And I'm like, Warframe, I haven't played that in a little while. I wonder what it's like now. And so I went back, and man, it's awesome. And I'm still coming to grips with everything recently that's happened since I last joined up. But doing that, I kind of found your guys'. Before that, probably the release for Plains of Eidolon. And so not a bunch of new stuff, but that was a huge thing. And man, I spent hours just fishing. That was so entertaining. I'm like, man, the scenery, it's almost just like calm, and I'm fishing, and this is awesome. And so, I did that for forever. It feels like, but so I did that, and I came back, and I'm excited to get caught up with some of the changes that happened in Warframe and stuff. I was looking out and I found your guys' podcast, and I'm like, this is actually pretty entertaining. I enjoy it. And then you're like,
Thank you.
oh yeah, we have community guest stars. I'm like, ooh, that'd be fun. So that's what brought me here.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you. That was a nice, well-rounded story. Just on your fishing expeditions, it's always nice and peaceful until one of those damn Dargan pilots comes and starts shooting at you.
Yes.
So
I was just
frustrating.
trying to catch a fish.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, if you feel the need to engage me in combat, I'm going to kill you in 15 seconds anyway. You know.
Exactly. You just have to start a fight, don't you, Grenier? Anyway, such is life.
The warring race. It's great. So tell us about some of your favorite frames and weapons.
Well, one of the things I love about Warframe is that you can have so many different weapons and frames, so many different combinations. So I like to switch it up a lot. But some things I keep going back to are, I love Nidus. He's just, godly when it comes to certain runs, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it feels so awesome when you're packing like 80 plus stacks, and you're like, I'm invincible for the next, I don't know how long, and it's like I'm doing so much fun stuff here, and so I enjoy that. It works really well with the Sancti Tigris or Tigris. I always call it the Tigris. The Tigris. I love it because of the little health boost occasionally, which is nice. And Nidus, just loves that health boost and stuff. And so I find that it syncs really well. And especially if you're going against the infested, the slash, oh my goodness, it's ridiculous.
Good combo.
I don't. Oh yeah, it's a great combo. I don't love secondary weapons. Honestly, I've had a hard time finding one I like. One that it's just kind of interesting and almost oddball is I like the Acrid. With the mod on it from, I believe it's the Perrin sequence. And so it's great because you can get that little shield boost occasionally, I believe, and you can just stack up a bunch of toxin damage that kind of just keeps going and going and going. And so I've used that in some unique situations. It's been really fun to use that.
Interesting. I didn't know the Acrid had a syndicate mod.
I believe it does. I'm not exactly sure.
I'm not a Perrin sequence guy. They're my enemies, so I don't know what they've got. I don't look in their stuff enough. So
I know. I'm a Perrin sequence guy, and it's kind of weird being on the Cephalon podcast. maybe I'll start a Perrin sequence podcast. Who knows?
That's right. We're all Cephalons. You're Cephalon Josiah.
Okay. Yes.
Honorary Cephalons.
Yeah, that's how it works, I guess. So I do that, and I've got I think an Atarax is my weapon of choice for melee, and so I love to use that.
Is that because of Rufflecopter?
Maybe not. Oh,
Nope. Oh, okay.
I think we lost it.
We lost him.
That's all right. We will figure this out, and we will bring him back in just a sec.
There we go. The full group's back.
There we go. Oh, we're all back.
Yeah, that was kind of strange, but we figured it out. I guess new technology. These things happen. All good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We managed to finish your weapons, though. We got through to the Atarax, which is
good.
weapon.
Good. So we got that done. So
Yeah,
that's
then
nice.
everything went wobbly, but that's cool. So when it comes, actually, one thing I did think of. What is your in-game name on the PC? Plug yourself.
Oh, I am Cal Rune, so that's like KAL -RUNE, and so that's my in-game name. And if anybody wants to add me, feel welcome to. I'm not part of a clan or anything right now, so I'm sure I'll get a billion invites now that I said that.
Definitely a billion.
But that's okay.
1.5.
Maybe. I mean, this is a very popular podcast, so
Yeah. Spread the word. Tell them all. Everyone already knows. Come on.
yeah.
So when it comes to the current state of the game, you did just come back. There are a couple of things that have been added since the Plains. There's Elite Sanctuary, the Sanctuary Onslaught and Elite Sanctuary Onslaught. There's Kuva Survivals, things like that. What is it that you enjoy the most at the moment? What do you like doing?
Well, I guess going through all of it, my favorite thing about the game, and I mean, it's not necessarily unique to the current status of the game, but it's just in general, is like the community you can find in Warframe. It's like, especially as a younger player, I was like, hey, can someone help me finish this mission? And to have somebody who's literally like got tons of end game material come in and be like, yeah, hey, I'll help you, and stuff like that. Not necessarily just handing you, the accomplishments of the game, but like genuinely helping you out and being like, hey, here's some advice, this is some stuff. So I've always really enjoyed just having the community to help me out. And like, if I have a question, it's never difficult to get it answered. Sometimes in the general forums, just like pop it up in game. It's like, oh yeah, hey, well, you just need to do this or, learn about that. And maybe you need to get to this mastery rank before you do that. But I think that's my favorite part about the game. And I'd have to say.
Yeah. All right, cool.
I did have a question for you guys, and it kind of connects with states of the game and stuff like that. What are your guys' favorite mission types? So, I mean, obviously, it's nice to have different types of missions in Warframe, but what is, if you can only pick one that was in Warframe for the rest of Warframe, what would you pick for mission types and why?
That's a good question.
That is an interesting question. Lucas, you first. Haha.
You know what? I'm actually a big fan of survivals. Yeah, I would say survivals. I like the challenge of just being able to essentially stay alive longer than the clock has planned for you.
Yeah. To be honest, I was probably going to say survivals. I was thinking that, but if we both said survival, that would be boring. So I'm going to say, and this is a kind of a cheat one, but free roam on the plains.
The open world.
And it's the nighttime eidolons that I enjoy most. So the challenge of the eidolons, the challenge of, the Gantualist and the Hydralist in particular, because those guys are actually relatively tough. Of course, the more you level up your operator and you do all that kind of jazz, the more you level up your spoiler, then you can do more damage to those guys, but and eventually it's probably relatively easy, but still for the challenge and for something different, and it's the mechanics are really good and interesting. That's what I like.
That's cool. If I had to pick one, survival, I definitely would agree with you, but I have to say probably defense missions. There's something about protecting the payload or the cargo or, the person that's in the cryotube or something like that. It's something about just protecting that location against hordes of enemies coming that I find so satisfying. Especially working as a team. You've got the people who can just take out almost entire rooms of people. You got those others that just hold them in the air or make them move somewhere else or make them fight each other. And I feel like everybody can really work together and synergize best in that environment. And that's one thing that really appeals to me.
And it probably also, another good thing about defense versus survival, if this is what that came down to, is at least if you don't want to continue, if you're playing in a public group and you don't want to continue, defense gives you the option to pull out and the others can still
That's
keep
true.
going, whereas survival does not let you do that. And hopefully they'll add that at some point in the future. Hint, hint, DE. But
that would be a really neat feature. I think that would be excellent.
Yeah, because it'll just get rid of some of that that toxicity. Because I look at the forums, I look at Reddit, and I often see people complaining about how people didn't want to, leave at 20 minutes, or they had to hang around for 40 minutes because the public group they were playing with wanted to do a long-term survival, and it is manageable if you ask up front, but sometimes you forget. It'd be good just to have that built into the game, I think.
Yeah, we've even seen that
even
kind of
sometimes
stuff
it's like real life gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I was going to go to 40 minutes, but, I need to take the trash out, or my house is on fire, or,
I hate it when my
real
house
life
is on fire.
Great
No, but it's true. I mean, I've got kids, so sometimes my house is on fire. So, I completely agree. And I'm just looking, just for everyone who may be interested, the Acrid does have mod from the parent sequence. It's called Toxic Sequence, and it gives you plus 200 status duration, which is pretty friggin' awesome. So I can tell why you like that.
Yeah, it keeps going and going and going, and so that's one of the reasons I love it.
Yeah, that is really cool. So thank you for letting me know. Because Acrid actually is a fun weapon too.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see it a lot. It's kind of an oddball choice, like I said, and so it's, I mean, sometimes we get caught up in, oh, what's the best weapon in Warframe? But really, if you put sufficient effort into any weapon, you can take it to endgame.
Exactly.
I mean,
It's all about the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I completely agree. And I just happened to do Acrid. I think it was last week. I leveled that weapon. So
Yeah, it was
Timing.
only recent that you did that.
yeah, it was very good. All right. So thank you very much. What do you have? Anything else you wanted to add?
I just had one quick thing.
Definitely.
I wanted to get your opinions. We were talking about mission types on Arcwing missions and what you thought of those. Personally, I had a terrible experience in the beginning, and I've never really gotten over it. So I don't like Arcwing missions. How do you guys feel about them?
Oof. All right, you go first this time, Greg.
Okay. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't like them. It really depends what the mission is. If all it is a Arcwing extermination, I don't mind it. If it's a Arcwing interception style mission or an Arcwing defense style mission, they can be a little bit frustrating unless you're in a group. Those missions where I think they're called Arcwing pursuits, where you need to chase a flying ship and take out its engines and do those things. And if you've had a chance to do the Jordis Golem, that particular mission is just absolutely ridiculous, and I hate it.
That was my first real Arcwing experience, and that's why I hate Arcwings.
Yeah, it's just so hard. But on the planes, Arcwing is fantastic. I absolutely love it. So it's just one of those things where sometimes I hate it and sometimes I love it. Really depends. Lucas?
See, now, for a long time, I was a Titania player, so Arcwing was basically my everyday gameplay. The sabotage missions, I got no problem with. I love sabotage Arcwing. There were a few of the pursuit that annoyed the absolute living hell out of me. I think it was the one on not Mars, Phobos. It was the one on Phobos. That one was an absolute pain in the ass. Never going back to that mission. It's done. It's off my radar. It's never been touched again. The Jordis Golem, very painful. Very, very painful.
Once you get Atlas, never do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much as
Awesome.
simple as that. But
Well,
you have
thank
to
you
do it
guys
'cause
so
Atlas
much
is
for.
awesome. No, thank you.
Yeah, Atlas is awesome. I ended up buying Atlas and never finished the Jordis Golem
That's not a bad
because
idea.
of that.
It's a good option.
So if you're going to buy any Warframe, I would recommend Atlas over. I mean, just because if you're spending money, he's the hard one to unlock.
Yeah, there's a few, unfortunately. We might actually cover that as a tip. Thank you. Hey.
Awesome.
All right, Josiah, thank you so much for being on the show. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for listening and input and all that kind of jazz. We especially love to have interaction from the community. So we really appreciate it.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I look forward to listening to more from you guys in the future.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for your ongoing support. Much appreciated.
All righty.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cool. And thank you to Josiah for that little interview. If you want to be a community guest star, you can get in contact with us in any of the ways at the end of the episode, or send us a message via Messenger through our Facebook page, which is what Josiah did. And we would be happy to have you on the show and talk about your experience and have a bit of a chat with us. Moving on, the beginner tip for this week. I decided to go back to the beginning again and talk about some basic stuff, really, but basic stuff that doesn't get explained very well at the start of the game. And realistically, that's in regards to leveling and power. So, in most other role-playing games or most other games of this type, leveling is pretty straightforward. You level up your character, and as you level up your character, you get more powerful. You've got weapons. As you level up your weapons, they get more powerful. It's not how things work in Warframe. So, let's take Destiny, for example. So in Destiny, you get a weapon. It drops at 200. You find exactly the same weapon again 2 hours later. It drops at 250. You know the one that drops at 250 is going to be the more powerful weapon because it's got a bigger number. In Warframe, you build a weapon, and it's the weapon. And if you build the weapon again, it's going to be the exact same weapon. As you level it up, it's the same weapon still with a higher number. So what we're talking about here is something called affinity and mastery. So affinity is just a special word for experience. So you can pick up affinity within a level. It's a little yellow ball, and you'll pick it up, and that will add to your affinity that's collected throughout the level. You can also get affinity from other players. So when another player gets a kill, you might see in the top right-hand corner of your screen, you've got those 3 little circles with a number 1, 2, or 3 underneath it. That means how many people you are affinity linked to. And when they get a kill or they do something, you get a certain percentage of affinity to yourself as well. The way that splits is quite complicated. I'm not going to explain it now. I'll explain that in a future episode because it will end up going on too long. But that's affinity. Mastery is basically just, it's a measure of how long you've used a weapon or a warframe for, how many kills you've got with it, and sort of what you've done with it. That's about it. As you level it up from level 1 through to level 30 in terms of mastery, once you hit level 30, that weapon or that warframe is considered mastered in inverted commas. So you have finished leveling that. You know how that weapon or that warframe feels. You know how it works. The mastery rank of a weapon or a warframe basically reflects the amount of mods that you can put on the weapon. So if you look at your modding system, you'll notice that there's something called drain and capacity. So capacity it will start out as 0 out of 30. And as you rank up that weapon, you'll have a certain amount of capacity available to you. And once you hit max rank at rank 30, you'll have the full 30 available to you. So as you level it up, so you go from 1 to 2, you go from 1 capacity to 2 capacity, to 3 capacity, to 4 capacity, and so on. I'm sure you know how numbers work by now. And in reality, for a weapon, as it ranks up, it doesn't affect anything. For a warframe, as you rank up the warframe, certain things do happen. So you unlock different abilities as you're going along. When you get to, I think, rank 2, I don't even remember. I'm not going to say off the top of my head. I'll probably get something wrong. By the time you get to rank 10, you've unlocked all 4 of your abilities. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is each ability has 3 levels of its own. So you rank them up at different points as you're ranking your ability, your warframe. So by the time you get to rank 30, all 4 of your abilities will be at their highest level and highest capacity. And that just is in terms of strength, the amount of damage they do, the range they have, things like that. It does have a little bit of an effect on your warframe as well in terms of the amount of health or shield or armor and things you've got as well. But realistically, the best way to think about mastery is just as a number. That's all it is. It's not going to cause you to have more power. If you've got a level 0 Frost Warframe and you've got a level 30 Frost Warframe and you haven't put any mods on it, the level 30 is only going to be slightly better than the one at level 0. It'll have more abilities, granted, but it's not going to have a lot more health or anything like that. Mastery rank is a measure of how many things you have mastered. And that's all it is. So you start off at mastery rank 0, and as you work through the mastery level on some of those starter weapons and starter warframes, you'll get to a certain point where you will have to do your first mastery rank test. And that's a nice, easy test. And once you hit that, then you're mastery rank 1, and you unlock a couple of little bits and pieces. as you continue through the game and you master more weapons and more warframes, all of that goes into your mastery rank so basically every weapon I think is worth, every rank of every weapon is worth 100 affinity towards mastery, and every rank of every warframe is worth 300 affinity towards your mastery. So all of those numbers added up across all of the weapons and all of the warframes in the game mean that the highest rank you can reach at this point of the game is mastery rank 25. So your mastery rank is just a measure of how many things you've played with in the game. That's it. It's not your skill level. It's not anything else. It is worthwhile ranking up your mastery because you unlock abilities, you unlock access to certain weapons. You can trade at mastery rank 2, join clans, do all, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do by increasing your mastery rank. So you should do it, but it is not an indication of your power or your skill level. So when it comes to your power, the only way to increase your strength and your capability is mods. That's it. When you put a mod on a weapon, if it says plus 100% damage, it will increase your base damage by 100%. So if you start with 10, it'll now be 20. That is exactly how mods work. All of them are a percentage increase on the base stat. It's really simple, and when you put a mod on your weapon, you will see a difference. If you put a mod on there that increases your firing rate, the weapon will fire faster. If it increases your reload speed, it will reload faster. That's how you increase your power and your capability within the game. Of course, there are certain weapons that aren't so great, so you'll want to get rid of them and find better weapons as you go along, but then you'll want to mod them. You'll also want to put in what's called an Orokin reactor or catalyst. That will double the amount of capacity. So if you remember, we were talking about affinity and weapon mastery and how there's mod capacity within there, and it only goes up to 30, which is the max rank of a weapon. If you put a reactor or a catalyst in there, that will double it and you'll get to 60. So if you can understand how that works, that means you can use double the amount of mods on your weapon. Double the amount of mods means double the amount of power. There's a whole bunch of other things that I've just now decided not to go into because I've already sort of talked about this for a long time, and I think modding should be a beginner topic of its own. So in another episode, not next week's, and I'll go into why it's not next week's soon, but soon I will go into modding for beginners. And that will cover things like polarity, it'll cover forma, it'll go over reactors and catalysts again, it'll cover capacity again. We'll look at the Exilis slots and stances on weapons and warframes, and we'll have a bit of chat about that. But the important thing here is leveling is just a number. The indication of your power is the ability for you to mod effectively. And that's my beginner's tip. Anything to add? There was a lot of content there. Lucas, what have you got to say?
A lot of content there. I think I will just leave it at that this week because, as you said, there is a lot to go over, and we have kind of gone over a normal amount of time that we'd like to. So I think it would be best just to keep the ball rolling. Great beginner topic. Great use of the beginning information.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our advanced topic. This week, Lucas will be finishing off the corrupted mods. I'll let you just take it away from here. Go for it.
All right. As Greg just mentioned, this is the last part of the corrupted mods, finally. And this time, I'm going to be covering Blind Rage. Now, Blind Rage is the 5th Warframe corrupted mod that offers a nice 99% ability strength, but at the cost of a 55% ability efficiency drop. This is another one that can be acquired through the Derelict Vaults, and it's also purchasable. Now, the average prices at the moment are PC 20 to 30 plat, PS4 20 to 30 plat also, and Xbox 30 to 40 plat. Now, combining Blind Rage with Fleeting Expertise can actually cancel out the negative effect of Blind Rage. So, and you'll actually have a plus 5% ability efficiency left over. So that's always a good little thing to know, that it has a good affinity with one of the mods we've already talked about. I think it was last week.
Last
Yeah.
week, yeah. Nice.
So yeah, that's a good little thing. Now, I wanted to go into power a bit more and just mention that if you were to put Blind Rage and stack it with a normal Intensify, Transient Fortitude, Augur Secrets, and Power Drift, you can get a hefty plus 223% increase to power strength.
Damn.
It gets bigger, because if you wanted an added boost, you can also run an energy conversion to get a total of plus 273% after collecting an energy orb.
Damn.
Yeah. I personally don't see why you would do this, unless it was just to muck around and say, look, I can do it, because it is 6 mods. It takes up a lot of space. Now, personally, I have trouble finding a Warframe that I would actually put Blind Rage onto because of the efficiency loss. But I think one of the ones I did apply it to was Mesa, because you don't, with fleeting expertise, duration isn't that important. If you're going to be running a Peacemaker build for Mesa, then all the power, just stack on that power. So that's my thoughts on Blind Rage. What are your thoughts, Greg?
To be honest, I have none. I don't have Blind Rage, so I've never really thought about it. Yeah, I don't know, because that efficiency is an important one, particularly with things that are going to drain.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because I did think of Valkyria. Of course, I always think of Valkyria, but I just don't know how it would work with her. She's already strong enough anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. And now I'm just going to go over some honorable mentions, because we covered the 5 Warframe mods, but there are some corrupted mods for specific weapon types that I feel people should at least acquire and try out for themselves, and get their own opinion. So starting off the list, I'm going to go with Depleted Reload for sniper rifles. Now this takes a negative 60% magazine capacity and gives you a plus 48% reload speed. This is great for the Vectus Prime. The Vectus Prime only has a starting a magazine of 2 bullets. With the negative, it drops down to 1 bullet, but with the reload speed, you don't even notice the difference. It's like you have a never-ending magazine. It's great.
Nice.
Going on to the normal rifle, we have Heavy Caliber, which gives a plus 165% damage, but at the cost of a negative 55% accuracy. There has been a bit of talk recently saying that this is a good one for something like the Lanka, because it can also be used on sniper rifles. I'm willing to give it a shot. I know I've seen quite a few builds that for the Eidolon that pretty much swear by the heavy caliber. So yeah, give it a shot, get it, have fun with it. Possibly, maybe that accuracy is too important to lose. Who knows? Shotguns. Now this one I see as any shotgun, and this is Vicious Spread. This is a plus 90% damage increase and a plus 60% spread. So your pellets are gonna have a wider spread. They're gonna hit a larger area, but the damage is going to be increased exponentially. It's great. Moving on to melee weapons, we have Spoiled Strike. Now there are only 2 corrupted mods for melee weapons, and honestly, the other one I wouldn't even bother looking at. It's it's for channeling. So that's enough said. Spoiled Strike, on the other hand, offers a 100% increase to damage at a negative of 20% attack speed. So a little bit more power for a little bit slower of a hit. I've used this a few times myself. If you can if you can still keep your attack speed at least a second, then 1 hit per second, then you're fine. You don't have anything to worry about. But for this last one, I'm going to throw it to Greg to give a bit of an example because he's more of a secondary person than I am. But Magnum Force is a plus 66% damage increase and a negative 33% accuracy. What are your thoughts there, Greg?
Well, it's very similar to heavy caliber for the rifles. And so my suggestion is to put it on something that is not going to be impacted too much by the lack of accuracy, and that is more of a single shot sniper type. So something that's already highly accurate on its own. So something like the Rector Ballistica, Ballistica Prime, Arca Cisco, or the Nell would be worthwhile putting that on. Now, I haven't tried it in practice, so I haven't got that particular mod, so I haven't tried it with any of those weapons. But as you mentioned, when it comes to heavy caliber, it does tend to work with the sniper rifle, so I would assume it works on the similarly sniper-like secondaries.
Cool. All right. Well, that's the end of the corrupted mods section.
Yeah, and the end of your three or 4 weeks look at the derelict.
Yeah,
very good.
Finally done.
Maybe some relief for Lucas in the future. Phew. Thank you.
I think more relief for the. I think more relief for the listeners. They're probably sick of hearing about the derelict by now.
We can go on to something different next week. All right, so this week we have a couple of community call-outs. So we are going to call out. Would you like to call this one out?
Which one, the Twitch or the community?
You can do both if you like.
I'll do both. Okay, so first off, I'd like to do a call out to a good mate of mine. He's a Twitch streamer, Sergeant Nemo, SGT_Nemo1. Find him on Twitch. Great guy. He does mostly Dark Souls gameplay, but he has been known to dabble a little bit in Warframe. And he's been kind enough to advertise our podcasts on his channel as well. So go listen to him. He's a great guy, has great content, always a good laugh to listen to. So yeah, that's Sergeant Nemo. Go find him.
Yay. Next.
And secondly, now pronunciation is terrible. What did we agree on? Is this a?
It could be a Nile or it could be a Neil. So apologies if whichever way your name is pronounced, sir.
Nile/Neil. I'm not going to put your last name down just for privacy reasons. But this week on the Facebook page, I put up a post praising the Dragon Frame Chroma and asking if there were any people out there that would like a mythical creature based Warframe. And Nile/Neil came along with a prime example of a good concept for a frame, and he thought that a Chimera would make a great mythical creature based frame, and giving it kind of a mix-up of other frames' abilities. So kind of mix and match, say like Valka's claws with Zephyr's flight, or just stuff like that. Just a mix and match of different frames.
That sounds amazing.
To make up a single frame. The best pieces of each, and give it like an ability where it can kind of split its individual pieces into specters of their original forms. That would of course be based on a duration timer. But yeah, I thought this was a great suggestion. I would love a Chimera frame.
Yeah. So get out there and make that one, Neil. That would be super cool. No, we both like that one, which is why we thought it would be worthwhile calling out on the community call out section today. So thanks for that. And yeah, please participate on there. And we might call out some of your ideas in future as well. All right. That sort of brings us to the end of this week's episode. Anything else you wanted to add before we depart here?
Just an apology to everyone, seeing as we've touched a couple of very touchy subjects this week. I hope you're still listening at this point.
Yeah, we've gone over time. We like to keep it about an hour. An hour is pretty good. Today we're probably going to hit about an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 20. So apologies for that. Hopefully it was all good content. So let us close out. As you know, you can contact us at Cephalon Squared on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube now. We have Cephalon Squared at Gmail on email. Yes, that makes sense. Didn't feel like it made sense, but it did. We now have a Facebook group as well, because I did learn that it is a little bit difficult for the community to share on our Facebook page. I didn't realize there was a difference between pages and groups, but there is. So I've set up a Facebook group, also called Cephalon Squared. Unfortunately, it's also called Cephalon Squared, a Warframe community. I can't change the page name, unfortunately, so I'm trying to think about what we can do with the group name so it looks a little bit different. But please join one, join both, join whichever one you like. More of the conversation will be happening in the group than on the Facebook page. The Facebook page will just be a place for us to share information about the podcast mainly, and in the group it'll just be a whole bunch of talking and palling around and having a bit of fun. Of course, we have a Discord as well. You can find out details for accessing our Discord. There are invites pinned to the top of our Twitter and the top of our Facebook pages, so check that out. You can send us a message via Anchor. I'm really surprised no one's done that yet. You can just record a 1-minute message and we can play it on the show. So feel free to give that a shot. Of course, give us a rating on iTunes or whatever the case may be. Spread the word, help us grow. We'll see what we can do to improve as we go along. I, as always, am Greg. I'm at Mad Capsules on Twitter and pretty much anywhere else you look for me. I have a website called Mad Capsules Gaming. And you are Lucas?
I am Lucas, and you can find me on Twitter, SILVRLGHT. Thanks for listening. As always, it's always good to have the support of the community. And I know we have one more little thing to say about next week.
We do. So next week we're going to have a little bit of a special. So we've decided to focus on one topic mainly for the whole episode, and that's going to be the syndicates. So the syndicates are pretty complex in themselves. There's a lot to talk about, so we decided to do a whole episode on that. So hopefully you will be able to look forward to a discussion about the syndicates and some complexities around those guys. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be good. Thanks as always to Jan at DiscoBox on Twitter for the intro and outro. And let's listen to the outro now. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Cephalon Squared. If you'd like to contact us, send an email to cephalonsquared@gmail.com or get in touch via Twitter or Facebook. You can also join our Discord or send us a voice message via the Anchor app. See you next week.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.